Mai ki tēnei hui o te kaunihere o ngā roto o Rotorua. Welcome back to this meeting of the Rotorua Lakes Council. This is a continuation of our adjournment from yesterday. Very pleased to hear that we will be underway with our meeting now today. We did have a karakia at that time, so we won't open up with one, but I do start the meeting by calling for any apologies. I've received no apologies. We do have Councillor Kiropa joining us online as well. Kia ora. So I will just carry on then to our staff reports. And of course today is the adoption of the 2023-24 annual report. May I please have a mover and a seconder so that we can receive this. That's moved by Councillor Waru, seconded by Councillor O'Brien. All those in favour to receive this report, please say aye. Aye. Any against? That is carried. And I'd now like to hand over to Thomas and David to overview this report.
Thank you, Your Worship. I will take the report mainly as read. I think for ourselves and the finance team, particularly some of the key players sitting behind me to the right, it has been a interesting journey this year, and it's very pleasing to have the verbal clearance from the auditors within the statutory time frame. Firstly, I'd probably like to recognise on our team David, Michelle, Cornet and Darlene in the back. The tight team of four have worked tirelessly to get this across the line, and I think without their efforts we wouldn't be here. And I think from an Audit New Zealand perspective, I'd probably in particular like to signal out our new manager that we have, Warren. Warren has been absolutely fantastic with regards to our interactions and helping us push this through, and in particular Shadab as well. And on top of that, the director, David Walker. So as I said, I'd just probably like to recognise the team more than anything on their efforts, then go into the detail of the report, which I'm sure some councillors will have some questions for us shortly. So with that, I'm happy to hand back and maybe over to David Walker from Audit New Zealand, Your Worship.
Thank you very much. I'll just check if David's is online. I know we've got Shadib and also Warren from Audit New Zealand.
I'm sorry, Chair. I believe he's trying to log into the meeting. I have sent him the revised meeting link. So if we could maybe just give him a couple of seconds to join, that would be great.
Okay, that's fine. And we also welcome Mike Garrett, who is our chairperson of the Audit and Risk Committee, who's joining us by Zoom today. Kia ora, Mike. Thomas and David, I just wonder if there's anything else you wish to highlight at this stage before we hand back to Audit New Zealand.
No, I think just there is one change to the previous draft that you did have. So within our, I guess the profit and loss near the bottom around our total comprehensive income, there was a change with regards to vested assets and valuation gains as a result of just this last week. And I think in particular the only other notable change was the prior period adjustment that relates to the deferred tax, which has been the journey over the last few days. But outside of that, along with some minor wording changes, the annual report is pretty much in line with that has been with you for the last few days.
Thank you very much. We welcome David from Audit NZ, who has joined us. David, we have just had Thomas briefly open and overview the report, but I wonder if you have any comments regarding our annual report that you'd like to share from Audit New Zealand's perspective.
Yes, I would, Chair, if I may. Thank you very much. My first comment is I do apologise to councillors for changing your plans. This was obviously meant to happen yesterday, and the key matter that arose very late in the piece was a deferred tax asset which arose in the group accounts, and that's only in the group accounts. It is reasonably complex, and dare say not many of your readers would understand it. Really and truly, it is a very technical matter. The adjustment arises only in the group accounts, not on Rotorua parent accounts. It's only in the accounts, and that is because of being in the airport, and that arises again because of the standards. It's not something that you see very often at all. So the main point is unusual. It is technically correct, and I guess the standards and being technically correct is part of what we need to go through. So I'm very happy to take any questions on the deferred tax asset. Chair, while I'm talking about some of the issues that we've come across, the mountain bike track was one. What happened there was council saw the track. You have a responsibility to maintain the track. It's quite logical, I guess, to have then said, well, that's our asset, and that was recognised or raised in council's books as a vested asset, meaning that the income statement was credited with round numbers 11 million, I think it was in fact 11.6, but 11 million, with the asset then being debited to parks and reserves. When we dug into that, we had quite a few people looking at it. We couldn't really claim that asset because the ultimate control still remained with the owners. So dare say the financial statements have been quite challenging. I suppose the last item I'd like to mention is the wastewater treatment plant. Because you're in the process of upgrading that, obviously there's a shortened lifespan for some of the assets, and it becomes very difficult to determine without a detailed look, without somebody sort of really making a point of assessing it. It becomes very difficult to know which assets have shorter lives than originally anticipated, or which assets will continue. And so thanks to council, you went and got Becca to do that valuation, which dare say helped the process. So those are some of the issues we faced. We got over all those issues, and I'm very pleased to say that council got a clean audit opinion. The audit opinion was sent to Thomas this afternoon. Hopefully Thomas, it's all a bit late, I apologise, but hopefully Thomas has been able to circulate that to you. The page numbers are highlighted yellow, because if there is a page number change, then it's just, we need to check that, and that's part of our final process. Delighted to say that council is within statutory deadline, which is a massive improvement, massive change from last year. So at that point, I'd like to say incredibly well done to council. You only got to your statutory deadline because of an enormous amount of effort. And I get really quite nervous about naming people because I know I'm going to leave somebody out. But I am going to name a few people, and as I said, apologies to anyone I don't mention. We had some really good meetings with some of the infrastructure people. Darryl Robson, for example, in Roding, gave us a lot of time, not only in the meeting at Rotorua, but by answering a whole range of questions, which he got not only from me, but others in the team. The stormwater chaps, we asked them to tender, and they came in force. Not quite sure what they expected, but there was Colin there, Eric, Sam, Lawrence, Kirk, and many thanks to them for answering questions and what have you as well. Robbie was there for parks. So my point is that there's a lot more people involved in the process than just the finance team. In respect to the finance team, Michelle, David, Jay have been absolutely amazing working long hours. For example, this long weekend, David and Michelle, certainly Michelle, worked every single day of the weekend. Every single day of the long weekend. On Sunday morning, I was in a meeting, in a Teams meeting with them, and I think our meeting went on for an hour and a half or something. And that was the start of the day. So I give that as one little example of some of the effort that David and Michelle put into the process. And I know there are other people like Darlene with fixed assets, her information was great. There has, compared to last year, it's been an organisational shift. And for which I really do congratulate Council, and I think some of that organisational shift has been led by Thomas. I was on, Thomas, when was it? I think it was on yesterday or the day before. I was pulling my hair out with this deferred tax matter. And Thomas phoned and said, well, sort of, can we help? And I said, well, really, can you? I'm just struggling to get I just need to concentrate. He said, well, Michelle's got the Excel spreadsheet, and I was trying to rebuild it. I said, well, great, let's use it. So thanks to Thomas's suggestion, we got Michelle in. She had all the calculations. Warren joined in as well, and we were able to resolve the matter. So Thomas, I know I sent you an email, but I do just want to once again thank you for the phone call and sort of the offer of help. Councillors, there's a huge amount of effort from everybody putting in more than their 50 cents worth. It really is a huge... Everybody, Thomas, Michelle, David, have a day job. And audit really is a once-a-year big exercise on top of everything. So, Chair, before handing over to you, and I wonder whether any councillors do have any questions, to each of the people, I do owe a very big thanks. It's a team effort. Michelle, David, Jay, Darlene, Thomas, thank you very, very much. Chair, back to you.
Thank you very much, David, and we really appreciate you taking the time to acknowledge the hard work of our staff as well, and we also acknowledge the work from your team at Audit New Zealand. Thank you. Councillors, I'll just see if there are any questions for David and Audit New Zealand while they are here, and then we will continue with any further questions regarding the annual report to Thomas and David too. Question from Councillor O'Brien.
Thank you, Te Manakuta. Thank you, Thomas, for your report, and David and all your team and everyone throughout Council for all their work. Could I just ask, on page 29, where it talks about the Tarawera surge scheme, it says that it was expected to cost about $29 million approximately. Could I just ask, with the phrasing around that approximately, knowing what we know about the protest, etc., like that, are we comfortable with that wording? Could that be used against us to say, well, there were factors in, you should have factored a higher figure? Are you comfortable how we've put that in there?
Yeah, so this is a reflection obviously at 30 June, and at that time that is the forecast cost against the budget. So we are aware that there's a few other costs that have come through since, and no doubt a future decision will refine that cost. But at the time of this report, that was an accurate reflection.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Te Manakuta.
Just checking if there are any further questions.
Are we doing questions just for the auditor, or are we moving on to Thomas?
Just at this stage.
Okay, thank you.
There appears to be no further question for Audit New Zealand specifically, but we'll open up if there are any other questions regarding the annual report in its entirety. Councillor O'Brien.
Thank you, Te Manakuta. Sorry, could I just confirm, so in the original draft there was a reference to Vision 2030 which is not being repeated in our latest draft. Can I just confirm that we've withdrawn that because it was a mistake of some sort, or admin?
That is correct. That's been removed.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Councillor Patterson.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you very much for your time this afternoon. Here we are again. I'll try not to take too much time. I do have a few questions. Page 27, place shaping projects progress. Doesn't talk about the Morey Street dams or the Linton Park dams. They're fairly large place shaping projects, aren't they?
That's correct. That just delivers some of the significant ones that have been completed and underway. But yes, it's not a 100% inclusive list.
Right. Okay. Also, the page 8 of the agenda, not the report, it says Council also recorded asset revaluation movement of 154.5 million related to parks and reserves, wastewater and roading assets. I did have a look through the report and I noticed Tokarongi Triangle was mentioned as one of the reserves, etc., but I couldn't find any others other than the Waikiri Domain, Rotorua Domain, I think. What other reserves are included in that were revalued? Any large ones?
The entirety of all our other reserves within Rotorua.
Okay, so considering Springfield Golf Course is a fairly large asset, did that go up?
If the land was revalued, then yes, it would have been. Yep.
Well, I might have seen that. All right. So moving on to measuring our performance, page 40 under community wellbeing. Is there a reason why we do SIPTED reports after we do a project on parks, etc.? Why don't we do that first?
No, we do SIPTED before as well. So
okay.
I think there's, depending on the nature of it, I'm not too sure this particular measure as well, but even so, as recently as looking at some of our CCTV network and where it goes, there were SIPTED assessments done as well, so it is done quite frequently.
Rightio. Then the page 41, percentage of users satisfied with Council's open space network. The target was 90%, we achieved 86%, which is pretty good. However, the previous year it was 99.6%, so that was a 13.6% drop. It did say, though, another qualifying statement, there's been a large increase in satisfaction for sports parks users across the Sportsfield network. So that's a really positive statement. But how has it been that we've had a 13.9% drop? What are the conflicts there?
Thank you, Councillor. I can answer that one. That was due to a toilet upgrade that was happening at Karinga Park, and the survey was taken before that upgrade took place. So
right.
We expect that increase to come through this next year.
Okay, thank you. And second to last question, community leadership, page 44. Provide opportunities for the community and individuals to participate in the 2023-24 target was 78%, which was achieved. 54% in 2022-23 was achieved. Get that wrong. In 2023, the target was 78%, which was achieved. No, it wasn't, sorry. 54% was achieved, but the target was 78%. 2022, the target was 74%. So that's a drop of 20%. So we've missed 2 years in a row, and this is primarily talking about Let's Talk. How much does Let's Talk actually cost the ratepayer?
Sorry, Councillor, I'd have to get back to you on that one. I don't know on the spot.
Okay.
I'll have to get that information back to you.
And lastly, under district development, the number of dwellings constructed from 1st of July 2021. 2022-23, the result was not achieved. 23-24, the result was not achieved. Given that there are only 4 years left to reach the goal, I think it's at 2,600 by December 2029 to unlock the IF funding that we need. Are we confident that based on those results, those 2 previous years, that we'll get there?
That target, which is not directly linked, that's our performance target within our plan. The numbers that are included within the IAF contract and the housing outcomes agreement have a different time frame.
Right. So do you think we'll reach those goals, though?
I think the key of that agreement is also it's the intent to seek to achieve those agreements. There's no pass-fail on that agreement.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Councillor Waru.
Tēnā koe te manukura o tira tātou katoa. Firstly, to the team here, awesome. Karawe ngā mahi. It's a big job. So thank you very much for the effort. And, you know, I'm sure the weekend just passed wasn't the only weekend mahi was done. So, e mihi atu ana kia koutou. But just, if you would indulge me at te manukura, this question is going to our auditor, to David. You made a comment around the organisational shift, a positive comment around organisational shift around doing this audit. Are you able to expand a bit more on what you mean by that? I'm curious to know from your point of view.
Certainly, Chair, through you. I think the biggest change is fairly self-evident if you remember back when you actually adopted the 23 financial statements. It was, I'm guessing a little here without trying to work it out, but I mean, it was about 8 months late. I think you adopted in about March or April of the next year, whereas this year you have adopted within the statutory deadlines. So, you know, to me that's an enormous shift. I don't think there's one silver bullet. I think last year, you know, was a sort of a reality check. It's a massive job. You've got to dedicate time to it. The accounting standards keep changing. You've got to anticipate that. And so lots of things have changed. And so what was the drop in the bucket that made it sort of overflow? I really couldn't tell you. Thomas was more involved with the audit. Mike Garrett, who's the chair of the Audit and Risk Committee, had weekly meetings with us to keep us on track. We had a change in the audit team. You've got a new CEO. Councillor, there's a long list of things, and I think, you know, they say many drops fills the bucket. Yep.
Thank you, David. Now it's just interesting, I just want to say, so this makes it even more, my mihi even more so, to all those who put in the huge effort. Kia ora koutou. Thank you. Thank you for the explanation.
Yeah, and my emphasis, sorry, Chair, my emphasis is on organisation. You know, right in the beginning, I mentioned the infrastructure chaps, you know, who provided additional information. You know, I didn't even mention Greg, for example. Greg's been great at providing some of the SSP, and that's just come to mind now. You know, I should have mentioned Greg sort of earlier because he's great. He's, you know, takes time to make sure that the information we get is accurate. So yeah, it's a people thing. You know, you know how often we hear the words, it's people, it's people, it's people. That's your answer.
Thank you very much, and thank you to all the people who put in the effort. Can't wait to me. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Lee.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Thomas and team, for your magnum opus. Yeah, obviously a huge effort on behalf of your team. I received a copy on Friday afternoon. I figure if you guys can be prepared to write it, I can be prepared to read it, and so some of my long weekend was also spent sitting in a hammock sipping pina coladas, enjoying this wonderful effort. I have three issues that spring out at me, which I'd like to know a little bit more about. Let's start with Councillor O'Brien's question about the reference to Vision 2030 being removed. Why was that removed?
Councillors, I think it will be very clear when we create this annual report, we obviously use the template from the year before which describes our activities because we don't rewrite those every year, and within one of those was a reference from the previous council. So apologies that in the suite from the team it didn't pick that up. Once it was brought to our attention, we removed it from the document, which it shouldn't have been there. Thank you.
And I am very happy to confirm that this council very early on was clear that we have a new vision, we have new priorities, and that's what we did when we adopted our annual plan, which of course was a start of a new shift of the new council.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to drill down on that a little because one of the questions that I have asked on a number of occasions is about the vision of this new group of councillors. When I type in Vision Rotorua Council into Uncle Google, what we get presented with is Vision 2030. So my recollection is this council has never established its own vision, and we've never made a decision to revoke the Vision 2030, so I would have thought it was the current vision of this council was a continuation of Vision 2030. Are you saying that's not the case?
Look, we can't explain the Google algorithm. Obviously, that does its own thing, and it's obviously referring to prior documents because council has existed for a very long time. But you might recall in adopting your long-term plan back in June of 2024, this council did set its new vision, which is embedded in that long-term plan with the key 9 priorities. So, which again we'll be discussing as part of this annual plan process going forward as well.
Yes, I'm aware that we adopted an annual plan, a long-term plan, and priorities. I'm not aware that we've ever adopted a vision.
Sorry, Worship. Greg will be happy to share the pages in our long-term plan that outline the vision and the priorities that are embedded in our 2024 long-term plan for you, Councillor.
So for the sake of clarity, this council no longer follows Vision 2030, is that the case?
You have been told that numerous times, Councillor, yes.
Thank you. Moving on to the committee structures, there's reference in the report to the various committees that comprise this council that you have established, Madam Chair. Mayor Tapsell, includes the Rural Community Board, the Lakes Community Board, the Infrastructure and Environment Committee, the Community and District Development Committee. But you've also established something approaching 30-odd other committees, which are not referenced here, including about 7 protocol committees, which form some part of this council's governance structure.
Councillor Lee, what is the relevance to that?
So I'm wondering why it was omitted.
Point of order on you, that is misrepresentation. I do not appoint the committees. This council appoints the committees by way of vote, and so any committee that is currently active has been supported by either this or a previous council in a democratic process.
Right, so the protocol committees and the other total of 30-odd other committees that form part of the governance structure of this council are not referenced in this annual report. Could we have that added, please? And I'm prepared to move an amendment to that effect.
So, on your behalf, Your Worship, it'd be correct that they're not listed because they're not part of the governance of this organisation, just the committees that are listed in the document, which are the ones that were approved by this council.
These are committees that meet, have agendas that staff present reports to, that decisions are made at, that staff act on their decisions. So obviously it forms part of the governance structure of this council.
So,
You've had your answer, Councillor Lee. You have strong personal opinions on this. That is of great frustration to us all. Do you have a question that is relevant to the annual report?
Well, yes. My question is, why are those ones omitted?
You've had that answered by staff. Thank you. Do you have any further questions?
Yes, I do. Page 28 of the report, Tarawera Sewage Scheme. The first paragraph at the top of the page says, most homes at Tarawera currently rely on some form of septic tanks to manage their wastewater, but these leach over time and are no longer acceptable or allowed under Bay of Plenty Regional Council rules, brackets, Plan Change 14 OSET rules, aimed at improving the health of the lake. My understanding is that Plan Change 14 was never actually moved beyond a draft stage. Is that correct?
Through you, Madam Chair, Your Worship, sorry. Yes, that's correct, Councillor. It has not been progressed. We had an official information request asking us to confirm that recently, and we did confirm that that plan change by the Regional Council had not progressed other than initial consultation. We did also, however, reference the requirements that their existing rules give them the opportunity to not support the ongoing use of septic tanks.
So this is incorrect, what we have in front of us then?
That's correct.
It's correct that it's incorrect?
You are correct, Councillor. The wording there referencing that plan change 14 is the rules that provide for offset tanks removal, replacement of septic tanks by offset tanks is not the right reference in the paper.
Should we move an amendment to have that corrected in that case?
Councillor Lee, if you have actually read the recommendations that are before us, recommendation 4 does say that the Chief Executive be authorised to make minor editorial changes, if any, as agreed with Council's auditors. That is a very minor matter, and it does not change the substantive of this, which is reporting on the work of Council within the past year and also the financial impacts of that.
So can we expect the final report to have that amended and corrected in that case?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions from councillors? There appear to be none. So with that, I will ask for a mover and a seconder. I am happy to move this. May I have a seconder? That's seconded by Councillor Wang. I'll read out the recommendations before us. First, that Council resolves to adopt the annual report and the audited summary for the Rotorua Lakes Council for the year ended 30th of June 2024, that the Mayor and Chief Executive be authorised to sign the letter of representation and statement of compliance section of the annual report, and following point is that the Chief Executive be authorised to make minor editorial changes, if any, as agreed with Council's auditors. That is moved and seconded. I now put that forward to the vote. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Any against? We'll just get a show of hands on that, please. All those in favour, please raise your hand. Thank you. Any against? Are you now against? So you've changed your vote. You're now against. And an abstention. Thank you very much. That has been passed. And with that, I would like to echo the thanks towards our staff. It has been fantastic to hear the positive feedback from our independent auditors on the great work that you have done. And once again, thank you very much. I know it was a challenging situation with the significant delays with the previous annual report, and it is fantastic to have this officially adopted on time today. So we hope that you all get a time for some short break and certainly a celebration. But we do also want to acknowledge our team at Audit New Zealand. Thank you very much for assisting us with getting this adopted within the time frame. It's certainly, from the feedback I've had, has been a pleasure to work with you as well. So that concludes our meeting for today. We will now just close this meeting with a karakia, and I'd like to invite Councillor Patterson to do so. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Restrictions are moved aside, so the pathway is clear to return to everyday activities, allied, enriched, unified and blessed.
Thank you very much, everybody. I declare the meeting closed.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Chair. Bye.
I don't have enough flowers now.